This is NBC.
When we talk about closed captioning WIS News, we get enthusiastic response.
If it'll be the first time I will understand the news, because it's hard to speak read.
And no one's more enthusiastic than the people here at WIS who are working to make it happen.
We're really pleased that we're able to bring that service to our viewers.
They've been very patient people, they've been very supportive people, and now they have the opportunity to be part of our show.
On Monday, WIS will begin regular closed captioning of our newscast, and anyone with a closed caption decoder can see what we're saying, just like this. We're excited to bring local television news to the 250,000 hearing-impaired South Carolinians, because we think news should be available to all our viewers. WIS News, closed caption, just one more way we're working in the spirit of Carolina.
Sponsored by Baptist Medical Center and Piggly Wiggly.
Follow the Carolina Traveler Tuesday night on the 7 o'clock report. From WIS-TV News. This is the 11 o'clock report.
Good evening, everyone. Here's what's making news on this Sunday. The folks in Sumter are very proud of having their soldiers home. So proud, in fact, that you just can't tell them anything today. That's because the President of the United States saluted the city and South Carolina for its support of Operation Desert Storm, with a very special salute to what the President calls the mother of all units, the personnel at Shaw Air Force Base.
The President arrived at Shaw Air Force Base shortly before 4 Sunday afternoon, where he was met by Governor Carroll Campbell and other officials. He was then whisked to Sumter Memorial Stadium, where he was met by a flag-waving and cheering crowd of some 15,000 people. Bush praised and thanked the folks in Sumter and throughout the state for their sacrifices in Operation Desert Storm.
You sent many of your finest men and women to serve. Troops departed. Reservists left their workplaces. And some people, newly married, were separated by war. Mothers bore children to fathers who looked across the horizon at an unseen foe.
The President had especially high praise for the men and women stationed at Shaw Air Force Base and their commanding general, Chuck Horner. As Chief of Air Operations, Horner was in charge of coordinating all U.S. air power in the Gulf War.
General Horner merged people and planes from 30 bases here in the United States, 6 Navy carriers, the Marines, and 9 allied nations into a seamless theater air force. And he mapped out the most intense, most successful air assault in history.
After the speech, President Bush shook hands with some of the Gulf War veterans. 15 minutes later, he was back at Air Force One and on his way back to Washington. Several times during his speech, the President was interrupted by thunderous applause from the enthusiastic Sumter crowd. That's because for many folks here, the President's visit was a fitting salute to South Carolina's contribution to the war.
I'm glad he made it. I'm not surprised. I'm glad he made it. Very glad. Very, very humbled.
Very, very proud. They've done a wonderful job, and each and every person in Sumter is very grateful all over the world.
My family and I have been waiting all afternoon for it, and he has a lot of support here at the Sumter area.
This was the first time in many years that a president had visited Sumter. President Bush visited Sumter back in 1988 when he was running for president. 2 Air Force pilots stationed in South Carolina are among the war's many heroes. Captain Spike Thomas and Lieutenant Eric Dodson were singled out by the President today because of their efforts in the Gulf. Christina Moore caught up with the 2 pilots today following the rally.
Air Force Captain Spike Thomas got a hero's welcome from President Bush and a crowd of 15,000 proud Sumter residents Sunday.
Let me also salute Lieutenant Nick Dodson, who led your rescue. We're glad he's here, too.
It was a well-deserved reception for these men. They're the ones who survived a dangerous helicopter rescue attempt in Iraq last February. In their F-16s, the 2 were heading back from a successful bombing mission when wingman Dodson noticed smoke in Thomas's engine area. They were about 100 miles south of Baghdad over enemy territory. A decision had to be made fast. The 2 agreed Thomas would eject at 12,000 feet.
We had 3 choices. Get across the border and land, get across the border and jump out on the bad side. Yeah, and as you know, we took option 3.
We were so calm, or he was so calm, it came over on me, and that made me feel calm.
Dodson then called for help. 2 hours later, the helicopters moved in as Iraqi forces neared.
Circled around and landed. Guy grabbed me. You know, best looking guy I've ever seen. He was a big guy. He had all kinds of weapons, including his arms. Pretty big arms. This is a big guy that came and got me. Hi!
It's something movies are made of, and now they sign autographs for fans who see them as the stars, the high-flying fighter pilot heroes of war.
They think we're heroes, but, you know, we just had a job to do and we got it done. And, you know, I was a very lucky man to be back here.
Christina Moore, WIS News.
Well, the president is back in Washington tonight just after 7 o'clock. Air Force One touched down at Andrews Air Force Base. The president was then taken back to the White House by helicopter. Bush spent most of last week in Bermuda meeting with the leaders of the allied nations. There they pledged to continue to work together to create peace in the Middle East. And now here's Chris with the first forecast for the evening. Chris?
Well, right now the clouds that we have around are going to finally die out for tomorrow. We haven't seen much rain, and the rain will be happening overnight through the early morning hours, but by and large, between the morning and evening for tomorrow, most of the day is going to be partly cloudy and mild with a high temperature of 70 degrees. So that's the first forecast for now. I'll have more details on the forecast coming up soon.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Coming up next, we'll take a look at a new treatment for one form of cancer.
Style isn't the exclusive province of the rich. Style can roll its sleeves up and get the job done. It's got a lot to do with doing a job well and taking care of the small details.
It's what the Cadillac dealers of the South mean by Cadillac style. Now's the best time to come in and discover that Cadillac style is not just in the cars.
It's in the people who sell them.
The people who work here decided you can no longer deduct the interest on your purchases. The people who work here decided they had a better idea. So for the first time ever, when you shop Rhodes Furniture, you can deduct 2 years' interest from the already low price on any items you purchase. That's 2 years, no interest. Nothing has been held back. Every item is included. And in addition, there's no down payment required. 2 years, no interest. It's a capital idea, but it's only at Rhodes, and not for long.
Hurry and get 2 years no interest at Rhodes for a limited time only. You're watching WIS News, the 11 o'clock report.
Patients suffering from brain tumors called gliomas may get a little help to fight their deadly disease. Small wafers saturated with a chemotherapy agent are being tested in the patient's brains. The hope is that the wafers will enable patients to live longer, better lives. Gene Kaufman introduces one man who believes the wafers are helping him. But first, a warning. Some of the pictures of the surgery in this report are quite graphic.
38 years old, and already his life is threatened by a recurring brain tumor. Average survival time for patients suffering from brain tumors called gliomas is 8 months to a year. But an experimental treatment using dime-sized wafers is giving patients new hope for longer lives.
I want to get rid of this thing. I don't want it in me anymore, but just the same, you know, if I can be of help to anybody by the operations or the treatments, I'll be more than happy to do it.
The operation Bob refers to involves a traditional procedure to remove as much of the tumor as possible. The experimental part is placing wafers saturated with the chemotherapy agent BCNU directly onto the tumor site. Traditionally, the chemotherapy drug has been delivered intravenously, but that has side effects like nausea, vomiting, and hair loss.
If you take in consideration that right after the operation is the best time of the rest of the life of these patients, you wanted to really make them to feel as good as they can.
Let's hope the wafers will reduce side effects as well as increase survival time. Dr. Acosta Rua has used the wafers on 4 patients, and only one, Bob, has survived. Still, neither the doctor nor Bob know whether these wafers, shown here in x-rays, are placebos or the real thing. Bob thinks they're real.
I still have headaches. I think anybody with this type of tumor is going to have a headache, but I do feel that they're different. They're not as extreme.
Currently, this experimental treatment is used only on recurring tumors. But if the wafers prove effective, they may be used earlier.
My hope is that if we accomplish something positive, that in the future, that we will be able to, in the very first operation, to remove tumor, debulk the tumor, and then we can place the wafers there with the PCNU and give radiation to the patients.
The study will continue through 1991 and is expected to include about 200 patients. Jean Kaufman, WIS News.
At least 7 companies want to increase the amount of waste they handle in South Carolina. State officials say that would keep waste disposal as a major issue in the state that's among the biggest dumping grounds in the nation. DHEC Waste Manager Hartsfield Truesdale says South Carolina's waste sites are attracting more waste to the state. There are 17 sites in South Carolina that bury, burn, or recycle hazardous, medical, or low-level radioactive waste from other companies and states. A wet Monday is in store for us here in the Midlands. Chris will have a forecast next.
Lincoln Mercury, we believe it. Price sells cars. And now a 2.8% interest rate seals the deal. We're combining low interest and huge discounts on 1991 Cougars for 10 days only beginning March 1st. Our Cougars have discounts up to $2,500 and interest at only 2.8% for up to 48 months. Don't miss this one, exclusively at Stivers Lincoln Mercury, where price sells cars.
Stivers Lincoln Mercury.
Southern National's new tax advantage loans are so revolutionary, we really need a lot of different ads to talk about them. First of all, you may be able to deduct up to 100% of your loan interest from your taxes. That's a whole ad all by itself. On top of that, we can show you how to access 100% of the value in your home instead of 80%, like other banks. That's another ad. We'll even show you how to save on closing costs. That's yet another ad. So call Southern National for tax advantage loans.
If I had a Z, it'd be silver. No, black. And I'd take it to a racetrack. Hold it. Nah, drive it cross country. That's what I'd do. Wait, Germany. Yeah, now that'd be epic. Running a Z flat out on the Autobahn. Too bad you can't drive to Europe.
We'll look at issues that affect today's Black American families and learn about an alternative school for teenagers, Monday on Carolina Today.
Time now for a look at weather. Chris Curlis is here. I know when I was down in Sumter, everyone kept looking up not only for planes to come overhead, but also to see if any raindrops would fall. It looked threatening all day, but it held off just enough.
Yeah, I think perhaps this is one of the most overrated rainstorms we've seen around here in a long time. We really haven't gotten much of any significant amounts around the state.
I felt a few drops when we were down there in Sumter.
Yeah, I felt a sprinkle here in town,
nothing
too.
Significant.
That's about it. And it looks like we're going to have some light showers tonight and
it's all
through the morning,
tonight.
and that's about, well, no, the heavy amounts probably will not come. Okay. Most of the system stayed to the south, and all the much awaited rain that we expected has not materialized, and it looks like it will not. Take a quick look at the satellite loop here. We put it through the last 8 hours or so. You can watch as the system and the bright white clouds scoot off to the east and take with them most of the heavy rains. And the last picture shows you some clearing going on right, well, I should say clearing as in most of the rainy area moving off with low clouds in over us for much of western South Carolina. And as we take a look at radar showing you what's going on, you can see some light shower activity between Greenville and Columbia. That's moving off to the east-northeast about 25 to 30 miles per hour. And there might be a few more scattered showers behind it. As the evening progresses, we have a front which is approaching, and that's what's going to be going on between now and the morning hours, and then behind that we have some clearing. Here now is a look at the temperatures at 11 o'clock. You see temperatures generally in the mid and upper 50s here in the Midlands, 58 in Orangeburg, 55 in Sumter. Along the coast, still some 60s. Here in the upstate, where they had more clouds and some more light rain during the day, temperatures are still in the the mid-40s, 46 in Greenville, 47 in Anderson. Columbia at 11 o'clock, 56 degrees, relative humidity 83%. Winds are easterly still, 5 miles per hour. The barometer is falling 3.04 inches. And here's a look at the satellite picture across the rest of the country. And first of all, we'll show you the temperatures that we had for highs today. You see that Washington, D.C. was a degree warmer than we were with 63 degrees. Up in Boston, they got up to 58 degrees. Generally a spring-like day around much of the country, and spring is less than a week away. 55 for Kansas City, 58 in Denver. Up in Bismarck, North Dakota, they only got up to 46, 70 for Phoenix, and 53 in San Francisco, where they're getting a lot of much-needed rain. Miami did get up to 78 degrees, and that's where most of the very warm temperatures were restricted, were the southern half of Florida. You see the front right here cutting through Florida, a lot of rain falling. 1 inch of rain in Daytona Beach, Florida, where spring break is going on. Not welcome there. But otherwise, you see, we have a wide swath of clouds ahead of this front, which will be pushing through the state sometime tomorrow, early during the day. And right now, we're expecting some snow to be falling in western Pennsylvania and parts of New York State. They have advisories where they may have some heavier amounts of snow tomorrow, a couple inches at least right now, but nothing major. Not nearly as much as they're having out in California. 3 feet of snow expected in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and that is very welcome for them. They need the snow, they need the rain. A couple inches also will be falling along the coast, and you see a stream of clouds over Mexico. That's the southern jet stream, which treks across all the way to the east, and that jet stream is what kept this warm front from pushing further up and bringing us the rain we were expecting. Well, here are the high temperatures I'm expecting for tomorrow. Looking at temperatures close to 70 degrees throughout much of South Carolina, 60s in the northern half, temperatures cooler in the northeast, and 50s throughout much of the western half of the country. The forecast for tonight around the state, rain likely, well, we'll say spotty showers right now, and the high temperatures, or the low temperatures this morning, getting down in the low to mid-40s in the upstate, low 50s in the Midlands, and mid-50s along the coast. Tomorrow, afternoon clearing. We'll see some morning showers probably, but then the sun will come out in the afternoon. High temperatures will get into the upper 60s upstate and low 70s around the rest of the state. And for Columbia tonight, scattered showers will scratch that heavy at times with a low of 50 degrees. And then for tomorrow, we'll say morning showers, then afternoon clearing and mild with a high of 70 degrees. For the 5-day forecast, sunshine for Tuesday, a high of 69. Once again, a high of 69 for Wednesday. Then for Thursday, it looks like we'll see some showers with a high temperature getting up to 72 degrees. And for Friday, a high of 76 degrees. And spring starts on Thursday, and in style, we will see some mild temperatures to go with it.
And hopefully little sprinkles to go along with it.
Spring showers.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Coming up next, the Sweet 16 has never been sweeter. Rick has all of today's basketball action.
Well, after all, it's still a car. It's not like it had 6 wheels or nuclear power or something. But what it is the first car made in this country for about as long as anyone can remember. That's been started from the beginning, from scratch. The whole idea of the Saturn was to start the whole process over, to start all over again with everything we'd learned, with everything anyone had ever learned about building a car. There's nothing left from the past. The engine, the transmission, virtually every nut, bolt, and screw. The way it's made. The way people care about how it's made. It's all new. It's the only really new American car from a new company for 40 or 50 years. We're proud of this car. It shows what you can do when you're willing to start all over again.
Time now for a look at sports, and Rick is here. And UNLV, what are they, like 90-0 or something like that? They've just been winning constantly. They're almost 30-0 almost, something like that.
Yep, they're 32-0. They've won 43 in a row. And, yeah, right now they're looking pretty unbeatable, but maybe a couple of chinks in the armor were exposed today.
Okay.
The Running Rebels of Nevada, Las Vegas are still undefeated and remain the favorite to win the NCAA tournament. But the Georgetown Hoyas showed the other 15 teams left in the tourney that the Rebs are vulnerable. Georgetown gives Vegas fits before going down in the West Regional. Georgetown's Dikembe Mutombo scores on this nice baseline move. Georgetown is within 2 in the early going, but then the Rebels defense takes over. Greg Anthony with a steal and bucket. Now Elmore Spencer with the block. Anderson Hunt decides to make it a solo trip. Down to the other end he goes, and UNLV leads by 10 at the half. The second half starts out as the Larry Johnson show. Johnson drives the lane for 2, then Johnson casually from the outside for 3, and Johnson again, this time not so casually. 20 points for Johnson, Vegas by 15. Georgetown makes a run at the Rebels. Mutombo grabs his own carom and stuffs 2 of his 16 points, but Vegas has too many weapons for the Hoyas. Anderson Hunt with a breakaway jam. UNLV goes to 32-0 in the year, their 43rd straight win as they beat Georgetown 62-54. Now, this next picture tells you a lot about the Utah-Michigan State game, a double overtime affair. In the first OT, Michigan State Steve Smith puts the Spartans up 66-64. Smith had 28 points, but Josh Gratton, that's 29 for the Utes. We go to a second overtime tied at 75. This Utah player can't bear to watch, but his team wins it as Walter Watts puts the Utes up for good. Utah advances after beating Michigan State 85-84 in double overtime. Checking the West Regional scoreboard. So next up for UNLV, it'll be Utah. And you can forgive Dean Smith and his North Carolina Tar Heels for being sweet on the NCAA tournament. The Heels made it 11 straight years in the Sweet 16 today with a victory over Villanova in the East Regional. Villanova starts out thinking upset. Preston Walker with a three-pointer. Nova leads by as many as 7 in the early going, but the Heels come to life. Rick Fox with a three-pointer. Fox finished with 14 points, and then the Tar Heel D takes over. George Lynch will make the steal. Ahead to Fox, who gives it up to Derek Phelps. His layup gives the Heels a 2-point lead. North Carolina advances to next week's regional semifinals in East Rutherford, New Jersey, with an 84-69 win over Villanova. And the Heels' next opponent will be Eastern Michigan. They beat Penn State in OT 71-68. Midwest Regional, Georgia Tech against Ohio State. Tech's Kenny Anderson puts it high off the glass, gets the hoop and the foul. The three-point play makes it 38-35 in favor of the Buckeyes. 25 points for Anderson. This time, Brian Hill will drive and score, but Bobby Crimmins and his Yellow Jackets are down by 6. Then Ohio State will go for the kill. Jim Jackson scores 2 of his 16. Then Tech loses the inbounds pass. Jackson to Treg Lee, and the Buckeyes will go up by 10, 48-38. Buzz decides it's time to send a message to the coach in the sky, and Buzz's prayers are answered as John Barry makes it a 2-point game, 60-58, 18 seconds to go. But Ohio State wraps it up from the foul line, hitting 7 of their last 8 free throws. The Buckeyes head to the round of 16 after beating Georgia Tech 65-61. Next up for the Buckeyes, St. John's, the Redmen over Texas 84-76. To the southeast, Alabama in white leading Wake Forest second half. Melvin Cheatham with 2 of his 21 as Alabama goes on a tear, pushing their lead to 7 points, but the Demon Deacons will battle back. Chris King will hit 2 of his 29 and cut the lead to 3. Then the 2 freshmen, Randolph Childress to Rodney Rogers. But Alabama, too tough. Watch Robert Ory with a pair of 3-pointers to put the Tide up by 6 late in the game. Alabama heads to the Sweet 16 after defeating Wake Forest 96-88. Next up for Alabama, Arkansas, as they defeat Arizona State 97-70. It was a rainy day in Georgia, too wet for a 500-mile race. So the Motorcraft 500 near Atlanta has been postponed until 11 a.m. tomorrow. They were able to start the race today, but had to call it quits after 47 laps. The first 6 laps are run under caution because of a wet track. They take the green on circuit number 7 with Alan Kulwicki on the pole. Dale Earnhardt starts 21st, but his Lumina quickly gobbles up the competition. Here he takes over 12th position, passing Bobby Hillen on his way to 9th place. But Earnhardt's charge to the front is halted by rain. The red flag comes out on lap 47. They try to wait it out, but NASCAR officials decide to keep the cars parked until 11 a.m. tomorrow. And here's how they'll line up on Monday. Sterling Marlin will be the leader, pole sitter Alan Kulwicki second, followed by Schrader, Urban, and Martin. And remember, Dale Earnhardt is lurking back in 9th position. Rain also caused problems for golfers at the Nestle Invitational in Orlando. Tom Seekman was one of 18 players unable to complete Saturday's 3rd round because of darkness. He was hoping to hang on to the lead, but shots like this didn't help. Seekman finishes second, 2 shots back. Andrew McGee also had to complete his 3rd round. He finishes at 13 under par, and that was good enough for the win because the tournament was called after 54 holes of play. Behind McGee are Seekman, Steve Pate, and Mark Calcavecchia tied for 3rd at 10 under. Mark O'Meara finishes 5th, 4 shots off the pace. In the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves finds plenty of helping hands against the Miami Heat. Now, Columbia's Tyrone Corbin gets a helping hand from Pooh Richardson. Tyrone slams 2 for Minnesota. And here's another nice pass by Miami's Sherman Douglas to Glenn Rice, who gets 3 of his 30 points. But the T-Wolves will win this one. Randy Brewer hits the J. Minnesota hands Miami a 6th loss in their last 7 games. Final, Minnesota 90, Miami 87. Checking the NBA scoreboard, Boston over Philly 110-105. Milwaukee downs New York by 1. Miami loses to Minnesota. Denver falls to Indiana. Charlotte 121. The New Jersey Nets 108. The LA Clippers a 10-point winner over Portland. Houston by 4 over Golden State. Second quarter, the Lakers on top of San Antonio by 3. Baseball results, South Carolina wins in Hattiesburg against Southern Mississippi 17-7. Virginia falls to Clemson 13-8. And Newberry, let's hear it for the Indians. They win their 4th in a row, 9-4 over Wofford. So another big sports week. They'll run the Motorcraft 500 tomorrow, starting at 11. USC, they play their second round NIT game in Albany, New York on Tuesday night against Siena. And NCAA starting all over again on Thursday. So sit back, relax, and get ready.
Kick your feet up because there's going to be a lot of sports next week. Thanks.
Have a good week.
All right. Coming up next, you say you didn't get enough to drink during St. Patrick's Day? Well, we'll tell you about a man that never needs too much to drink.
Oldsmobile, official car for NCAA championships, calls this time out to tell you about the other game in town. The Oldsmobile Drive to the Final Four Cellathon.
See your Carolina Olds dealers now and score $1,500 cash back on Cutlass Sierra with air, AM, FM stereo, and more. That means your price for a new Cutlass Sierra is just $12,325. And with another $600 for qualified first-time new car buyers financing with GMAC, you could slam dunk a winning price of $11,725. See your Carolina Olds dealers now. You can't miss.
From the Wild West to the mean streets, Clint Eastwood has enforced his own style of law. Now, you can own his greatest movies with the Clint Eastwood collection from Time Life Video. As a gritty cop or a gunslinging renegade, Clint delivers non-stop action and some of the most famous one-liners in screen history.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Start your collection with Dirty Harry, the original bad boy cop who packs a cannon in his holster and who takes no prisoners.
Being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off.
He's always ready to give a crook a chance.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Other videos include the outlawed Josie Wales.
You gotta pull those pistols and whistle Dixie.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Put your drawers on and take your gun off.
And hang 'em high.
Hang a man, you better look at him.
Plus Magnum Force.
Man's got to know his limitations.
And Sudden Impact.
People have a nasty habit of getting dead around you.
There's no commitment or minimum number to buy, and you keep only the videos you want. So grab the nearest phone and call us now for Dirty Harry. From outlaw to Harry's Law. Make the best of Clint part of your video collection. Here's how to order.
To order your first video, Dirty Harry, call 1-800-654-0700. That's 1-800-654-0700. Or send just $14.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling to Clint Eastwood Collection, P.O. Box 1880, Department 10, Alexandria, Virginia.
The original bad boy weatherman himself, Chris Curlis, is here, and with the wake-up weather.
I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about tomorrow's morning's weather.
I can hardly wait.
First, the good. No, it's tomorrow morning when you get up at 7 o'clock. It should be a little bit of drizzle around, but the low temperature 50 degrees, so not too cold, and expect some sunshine later on in the day. So there's the good.
And when you give a man the weather, you better look at it. Thanks, Chris. Finally tonight, when most people think of liquor these days, they think of those little mini bottles with their favorite legal potion. They don't think about illegal moonshine. Well, it's in the spotlight again. Harry Carnes reports tonight that it's making a big comeback in Atlanta.
If you've never seen any before, this is it. Pure moonshine whiskey, 100 proof.
What does that do for you? Clears your sinuses.
It will definitely do that, and there's enough right here to clear just about every sinus in Morgan County. Investigators confiscated almost 200 gallons of moonshine from the property of this pleasant-looking man. 77-year-old Herbert Autry doesn't look like a criminal, but officers say he's been selling moonshine most all his life. In fact, one man told the sheriff he bought a jug of White Lightning from Autry back in 1939. Investigators believe it's been Autry's only real source of income throughout all those years. And if you want to know just how profitable this line of work can be, listen to this. Along with the whiskey, the rifles, and a few pistols officers found at Autry's house, they also found this, $12,000 cash. Investigators say he was charging $12 for each half-gallon jug and could have been making as much as $100,000 a year. Autry denies that. He told me by telephone he was just trying to make a little money to pay the doctor bills and that he never made that much selling moonshine.
That's our time for right now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.